What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Diamond Discourse presented by Beyond the Monster. This is your home for all things baseball, hosted by none other than your man, Matty Kiwoom. Whether it's diving into the biggest transactions in Major League Baseball, talking about it and breaking down some of the most insane games during the season, or just having a little chit chat about today's hottest topics, I've got you covered. We're going to step up to the plate. We're going to join the conversation, and we're going to talk about the best sport on the planet, baseball, baby. This is Diamond Discourse. Let's talk ball, baby. The first segment on this episode is going to be some of the topics of the day. We had a few signings, not one, not two, but three that happened over the last few days. So let's dive into the first signing. Anthony Santander finds a home. He's going to settle in Toronto after signing a pretty massive deal, bigger than what was expected. There were some rumblings from agent Scott Boras that he would be willing to maybe take a short-term, higher AAV deal. Not today. Toronto extends a 5-year, $92.5 million contract to Anthony Santander. And listen, it's a pretty great signing on the surface. If we're talking about 2025, a vacuum in this season, this is a much needed acquisition for the Jays. Santander is a switch hitter. He's going to slide right into the fat part of this lineup, anywhere from 3, 4, or 5, depending on how they want to place it. But make no mistake about it, Santander has been a quality bat over the last half decade. Ever since 2020, he's posted over 100 WRC plus. The only season in which he didn't was 2021. But we're seeing like 130s, 122s, 129 last year when he hit 44 dingers for the Baltimore Orioles. And that's going to sting. It's going to definitely sting the Orioles seeing a guy like that, someone that's kind of come through the mud, right? I mean, Santander was there before Baltimore really got on the scene, before the Rauschmans and before the Gunnar Hendersons took hold and turned this team into a contender. He was there doing his best, and now you're going to see him do his damn thing over for the Toronto Blue Jays, batting in the middle part of that lineup. So on the surface for 2024, it makes a whole lot of sense. I think I do see a little bit of this is the case where a team that struck out bringing in Juan Soto, if you date back to last year, they struck out on signing a guy like Shohei Ohtani. They keep continuously being the bridesmaid, never a bride. And they said enough is enough. Santander's on the market. We're going to go get this guy. We don't give a crap whether the years are too long, the money is too high. We're going to make sure that we bring in this above average bat. This is a guy who can be a 3.5 WAR guy, even without really great defensive metrics. So it makes sense that they signed him. I think it was a good signing on the surface. Now, it could be one of those that they regret just a calendar year from now. If they don't bring back Vladimir Guerrero Jr., or if they are forced to trade him at the deadline because this team is underperforming Anthony Santander, he's not going to really be the difference maker that you're hoping he'd be after giving up 5 years and $90 million. But there have been worse deals kind of extended. The Boston Red Sox gave a 5-year, $90 million deal to Masashita Yoshaki. Why am I not? Masataka Yoshida. There it is. Found it. Masataka Yoshida. And he hasn't really been nearly the bat that Anthony Santander can be. So they're just deciding, you know what? Let's not worry about the future. Let's not worry about the what ifs. Let's put the pedal to the metal, bring in a bat that will help this lineup win this year. Now, you might have paid $100 million to a middle of the order bat and still finish 4th in the division. There's still a lot of holes in this team. But at the end of the day, a team like the Jays, they got a ton of money, some of the richest owners in baseball. They're not the problem. They're trying to pay people. They go ahead and bring in a middle of the order bat. Cannot blame them for doing so. Now, the next topic that we're going to bring about is it's a pretty big topic of the day. I would say it's the biggest topic in Major League Baseball going, probably by a long shot. And that is the fact that not only did Roki Sasaki decide to sign with the Los Angeles Dodgers, but the best closer on the market, Tanner Scott, also follows suits and heads out to La La Land, creating one of the most stacked rosters in the history of this sport. So let's start with Sasaki. Sasaki going to the Dodgers, I did not predict it. I predicted him to the Padres, and the Padres were in on it till the end. They acquired up to about $10.2 million in international spending to extend that to a guy like Sasaki. He decides to sign with the Dodgers for $6.5 million. He gets that $6.5 million signing bonus, and now their rotation, the Dodgers rotation, is just it's a silly stupid. A silly stupid. You mean you have Ohtani coming back from Tommy John. You have Blake Snell, Yamamoto, Glasnow, Sasaki. Oh, you still have Gonsolin, still have May, still have Miller. It's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And Sasaki, he's been a topic of conversation on the show, so diving into some of the stats seems redundant, but we all know the prospect, 23 years old. We're going to be 23 years old this season. Throws 100 miles an hour, has multiple pitches in repertoire. Oh, I like that word, repertoire. He's still a prospect in the sense of he's not super polished. We don't know what he is going to provide in the course of a full major league season. He's only thrown about 130 innings. That's his high mark of his career. So what is it going to be? But he goes to a team that has some of the best pitching lab development in the game. Tyler Glasnow was being interviewed talking about how important that was for his decision to sign long-term in LA, was their ability to not only develop pitchers, but maintain and get the best out of these pitchers. So it makes sense for Sasaki to go there. And all the talk of being maybe avoiding the high markets, the big market teams, all the talk of he wants to pave his own way and be the unquestionable ace of a staff, that all seems to be hooey. That all seems to be a bunch of BS. And he decided to go to the best team in baseball, be in a situation that clearly is the best for him in terms of his professional development, probably in terms of his private life too. I mean, just having the support of Yamamoto and Ohtani, just two countrymen that, could speak the language, help him get acclimated, kind of help him navigate his early years as an employee in the U.S. Makes a whole lot of sense. I don't blame the kid at all for signing with the Dodgers. And then Tanner Scott. Go ahead and signs with that same ball club, 4 years, $72 million. And the kicker, folks, the one that really he just creeps up into people's crowd, just creeps up in them. They just can't take it. $21 million deferred. The Dodgers just keep doing it. Now, this bullpen on paper did not need a Tanner Scott, but hell, getting Tanner Scott just makes his bullpen just so sick, nasty. Blake Trinan signed the extension, 2 years. Evan Phillips, kind of coming into his own last year. Michael Kopech, after being traded from the worst team in baseball to the best, all of a sudden looked like vintage Michael Kopech in the back of that bullpen. You add Tanner Scott. You have 5 formidable, no-nonsense pitchers at the back of this lineup. I mean, this is the lefty now. I mean, they still had Banda, who's been good for them from the left side, and Vezzi, who's been good in his career. They had arms. Now they're loaded. They have 3 lefties, a handful of righties. They all have get-you-out stuff. They all can throw a chair at anyone in the big leagues. And hell, the one guy that seems to have Shohei Ohtani kind of flailing about, well, they just signed him for 4 years, $72 million. And we found out, or some of the rumblings was that the silver medal, or I'm not going to use this terminology, someone else uses it, but the second place finisher in the sweepstakes were the Cubs. Third place was the Jays. So the Jays continuously struck out. They got Santander, and Scott goes to the Dodgers. Now, it brings up the question. It brings up the topic. I've seen this topic being brought up on other shows, on the internet. Hell, it was on TikTok before TikTok went away and then came back. Snip, snap, TikTok's back. But anyway, the LA Dodgers, are they bad for baseball? My feeling on this is that they are the Dodgers are not bad for baseball. The Dodgers are arguably fantastic for MLB and for baseball because this is must-see TV. The narratives, the intrigue, the championship pedigree, the players, the lineup, it's just all there. And now you have a team that will transcend regions. Kids will grow up, the bandwagoners, the Yankees, they're all Yankees, the former Yankees fans, you see them all over the place. They love the Yankees. When I was growing up, I'm almost 40, so I remember when they were the most dominant team. These fans grew up being Yankees fans, even though they weren't from there. You're going to see a hell of a lot of that with the Dodgers. See a lot of LA, hats and jerseys around, the memorabilia, the merch is going to go through the roof. I don't think it's bad for baseball. What I do strongly believe is that the Dodgers in its current state is the byproduct of what is bad for baseball, and more specifically, Major League Baseball. And that to me is and will be, until it fixes itself, the corporatization. I think I said that right. I think I freaking nailed it. The corporatization. The corporatization. The more I say it, the less I think I got it right. But the fact of the matter is that the way baseball has just become such a corporate battle. All of these ball clubs act like the only thing that matters is the ledger. Make sure that the number is bigger than the budget. Make sure we're making more money. Make sure our profits go up and up and up. I don't care about the fans. I don't care if we win any games. There's enough asses in the seats. We're selling enough hot dogs. Bobby over there has got his 15th beer. He's building a snake up to the heavens. We don't give a rat's ass about the product on the field. These guys keep coming. And just, with profit sharing, there's a whole lot into that. With revenue sharing, we can get into that another time. I'm going to have some guests on in upcoming weeks, and I'm going to love this conversation. Like, what's bad for baseball? How can we fix baseball? It's a big conversation I'm, passionate about. Something I would love to talk about with some of the guests, and I got some good guests lined up. So you're going to want to keep coming back. Diamond Discourse here on the Beyond the Monster YouTube channel. But this corporateness, this building corporatized front offices where let's get our Ivy League law student, law degree, Ivy League. Oh, let's make sure the budget is down. Let's make sure we cut costs so we can raise profits. Oh, sales of the tickets are going to go up, but I can't afford to sign this player. Oh, the Dodgers. Oh, you have to hate the Dodgers. No. At the end of the day, this is what it is, folks. Close your eyes. Picture your favorite team was doing this. Would you say it's bad for baseball? No, you'd fucking love it. Don't deny that. And you shouldn't. Dodgers fans should not be worrying about the state of baseball because their favorite team is kicking the shit out of everyone in the offseason. And they're kicking the shit out of everyone in the field. World Series champs has worked for them. They're not bad. What is bad is the lack of compete starting with these owners. Competitions in baseball on the field are obvious. Duh. Pitcher versus batter. Team versus team. We get the series. We get that competition. But competition transcends the field. Competition is in the front offices. Growing up, you'd hear about these things, these arm races. Yankees got a guy. Sox got to get a guy. Dodgers got a guy. Giants got to get a guy. These arm races to win in your division and win World Series. It was competitive, and it was in the front office that permeated through ownership, and ownership allowed that because they wanted to win. You watch the Red Sox World Series documentary, the 2004 documentary on Netflix, and you hear the owners just talking about how much they wanted to win. They didn't care. They wanted to win. That's gone. Here in Fenway, here in Boston, it's gone. The fact that they're not getting more aggressive against some of these free agents, maybe it's strategy. We'll see, but they still haven't paid. There's a bit of skepticism here in Boston, but there's way more negative skepticism across Major League Baseball because these teams are unwilling to pay. They're creating these fake budgets, these fake constraints because, there's no salary cap. I know there's luxury taxes. 3 teams blew past the luxury tax. They're probably 3 of your top 5 favorites to win the World Series. There is a correlation with spending to winning. I understand bad bets can happen. Bad investments happen in all walks, including baseball. But these teams, these owners just crying poor when they have B's next to their net worth, not M, B's, multiple B's. No, 1B, 2B, 3, up to 10, 11, 12 B's behind their net worth, and they can't afford these players. that will in turn bring them back money? No, it's because they're getting money through revenue sharing. They're getting money through TV deals and merch and the gate and concessions. They don't care being fat and happy because their ledger looks good. Their bottom line is in the black. It looks fat. But that's bullshit. That kills compete. And competing, winning starts at the top. The ownership to the front office, to the manager, to the team on the field. Everyone has to be lockstep to want to win. Every guy that puts on a pants, the jersey, the hat, they want to win on the field. This isn't on the players. All of them want to win. All the managers want to win. Hell, most of the general managers want to win. But these owners, they don't give a fuck about winning. All they care about is the bottom line, and that is what is bad about baseball, not the Dodgers. Segment number 2 is going to be a new and a fun one. We're going to do a little stats deep dive. Now, you know me, I'm the president of Bro Science. I love, the feelings, the clutch. I believe in clutch. I like that too, but I also am a man of analytics. I've read Moneyball, see that right behind me. Big fan of, Theo and team builders and the theory behind it. And, the Bill James kind of the statistical approach, the analytical approach. I love looking at underlying metrics to kind of see what's going to happen and see if we could predict a turnaround, a fall off. What does the regression rate look like? I love all these things. I do play a lot of fantasy baseball. That's also ties into why I love the statistic part of it, the underlying metrics part of it. So today we're going to dive into one of my favorite stats, actually the best stat in my opinion for depicting pitching dominance, and that's K minus walk percentage or K minus walk rate. Now, in and of itself, it's very self-explanatory. Strikeouts minus walks, you get a percentage, you get a rate, you get a number. So what is that? What does it look like? Pretty obvious. And like I said, it's my absolute favorite pitching metric for a number of reasons. The first, there's pretty clear thresholds, very easy to understand thresholds. And if you're kind of getting into analytics, you're not sure where to get in analytics, I'm a big fan of Fangraphs, member of their website. Big fan of what they do over there at Fangraphs. Shout out to Fangraphs. A great site for analytics and seeing underlying metrics, things of that nature. So shout out to them. But K minus walk rate has very clearly definable, easy to see, easy to notice thresholds. Anyone less than a 10% K minus walk rate is trash. They're trashola. They are water trash. They're not good. And I mean that tongue in cheek. Of course, if they're in the big leagues, they're good. They can strike me out. But in terms of their ability on the field, below 10%, trash. Anywhere from 12 to 15%, that's kind of our solid scale, I'll call it. It's, league average is in that range. But depending on, where it flows, it's not exactly definable of what part or what percentage is what I would qualify year to year understandable, like translatable or recognizable, whatever you want to say. But anywhere in that 12 to 15% range, pretty solid pitchers. 20% or over, those are where the best of the best sit. The best of the best in baseball have a 20% or more K minus walk rate. And it's the strongest indicator of dominance for a starting pitcher, bar none. And there is some evidence that strongly supports this. Okay, so 80% of the Cy Young Award winners over the last 5 years had a 20% or better K minus walk rate. Okay, and if you keep going back, you'll notice the same pattern. It's not exactly 80%, but most likely the Cy Young Award winners ranked high in that metric. There are some outliers, just like Sandy Alcantara a few years ago when Blake Snell won it before his free agency. So in 23, he had a below K minus walk rate, but it was, I'm not going to call it a fluke, but it was a bit fluky. He had a 30% K rate. He just had a pretty high walk rate. Remember, he didn't go deep into games. So it was kind of wonky there. More often than not, Blake Snell is a 20% K minus walk rate guy. It just wasn't that year, but it could have been. Really could have been. Absolutely could have been. Let's look at 2024. I like doing the deep dive of 2024 to kind of help us see what it meant, kind of dive into it. Like I said, really strong indicator of pitching dominance. The best in the game, you're going to see them ranked pretty highly on this list. Now, the two we're going to look at first, we're going to look at it from a qualified lens. So these are all the pitchers that are considered qualified. These are the guys that can win the awards. These are the qualified pitchers. Not win the awards, but these are what is considered qualified pitchers statistically. So 14 starting pitchers had a 20 or better K-minus walk rate. That includes both Cy Young Award winners. Okay, Jack Flaherty, career season, Bailey Ober, Cole Ragans, Tanner Bibby, is it Bibby, and Shota Imanaga. You're gonna know if this is your first time tuning in. First, I'm terrible with names. Maybe some of these guys want to come on, teach it to me. I'm just saying. But Shota in his rookie year, he was 20% or higher. And if you drop that threshold to 125 innings or more, not just qualified, but the 125 innings or more, two stud pitchers kind of pop up in a big way. Garrett Crochet led the major leagues. If you drop the threshold to 125 innings pitched, he had a 29.6% K-minus walk rate. It blew away the field. Not really a trend. Like it wasn't a number that kind of broke the mold. Spencer Strider in his 2 years of dominance was right around 30% as well. But actually number two, when you drop the threshold to 125 innings pitched, Paul Skeens, he had a 26.8%. But again, if you're looking at just qualified pitchers, Tariq Skubal, Chris Sale, 1 and 2 in K-minus walk rate. So it absolutely translates. If you are looking at the Cy Young Award winners, you will find them in the top 15, 12, 10, 5 of this metric. So it's a fantastic metric to look at when you're trying to see who's truly dominant. And folks, for any of my fantasy baseball players out there, this is my go-to metric in trying to predict future outcomes. When I'm trying to trade for pitchers in June, in July, this is my go-to metric here, K-minus walk rate. So the 5 starting pitchers that had the most fantasy points were in the top 7 for K-minus walk rate. Also, there was all those pitchers that I just mentioned, Flaherty, Ober, Ragans, all those guys, every single one of them were top 20 in fantasy, right? 20+% K-minus walk rate, top 20 fantasy baseball pitchers. These are the guys that get the points. These are the Mac Daddies. These are the best guys in baseball. When you look at this metric, it's a clear sign of who's dominating and who's not. So if you're just trying to see, hey, this guy's my guy in my team, I'm not going to call it a name, but let's just say my favorite team has a pitcher. He's 6-0. Is he lucky? People said he's lucky. Is he lucky? Go look at his K-minus walk rate. If you see a 11.7%, your boy's probably getting lucky. It's probably some rougher days ahead. Now, if you look and you see a guy, we just paid this guy money. No. Why, Rogi Sasaki? Why do you even care about this guy? He's got a 4.1 ERA. He only won one game. He's 1-5. Well, go look at his K-minus walk rate. If that bad boy's 21%, maybe he's just not getting guys out at the opportune times. Maybe his BABIP is a little high. Other metrics. Ooh, what are these numbers? These are also numbers that we will dive into in future episodes because, like I said, I might be the king of bro science, but I'm also I do like to dive into the underlying metrics as well. And K-minus walk rate is the best. My favorite one when I'm looking up how dominant is this pitcher this season. All right, folks, segment number 3, the best segment, the fan favorite, the one the people clamor for. Can you do it? What are we going to do today for GM for a day? If I was given the reins, the keys to the car for just 24 hours, one day, what would I do as the team builder of this franchise? Today, we're going to dive into the Kansas City Chiefs. What would I do if I was the Kansas City Chiefs? Football in the brain. Nope. Kansas City Royals. If I was a GM for Kansas City Chiefs for a day, I wouldn't do shit. I would just sit there and count my Super Bowl rings. But no, we're not talking about the Chiefs. We're talking about the Kansas City Royals. You see the logo. Oh, that side. You see the logo. So if I was the team builder for a day, if I was GM for just one day of the Kansas City Royals, I am doing my best NSYNC impersonation. You might be saying to yourself, you sing and dance? You have a reunion episode on Trolls Band Together? No, I am going to be buy. I am going to do my best in sync comparison. I'm buy. I'm buying. Okay, this team is looking like they can compete, and especially when you look at the AL Central, you go, the Royals can't compete, and then you kind of take a bigger look back and you say, this AL is a bit wide open. The American League is not as dominant at the top as it's been. It's pretty open. So if I was building the Royals, if I was the team builder for just one day, I'm buying. I'm helping this team win. And when I look at this roster, I have my process when I kind of dive into this segment, what I would do, because I want to be realistic. This is a job review. Royals, Red Sox, you heard the last one or whatever, but whatever. I digress. There's a few factors that I looked at. And using these indicators, kind of using them as my North Star, my guiding light, if you will, I believe I could spend upwards of $40 million for the 2025 roster. And you might be saying, why? Are you pulling these numbers out of your arse? No. Like I said, there's some reasons to believe this. They have a projected opening day salary cap, or their salary number, whatever you want to call it, their roster number, where they are at in terms of projected payroll. That's the word, payroll. $114 million. But when I look back at 2015, which is almost 10 years ago, this is their World Series team, they spent $140 million. Now, inflation, progression, all this stuff from 10 years ago, you say 140, that number should come up here in 2024 or 2025. And even last year in 2024, the Royals had a $156 million payroll. So that, in my belief, I think I have room to wiggle. I think I have room to spend here. I think the ownership's going to give me leeway to spend. And when I look at this, I say, oh, they did bring somebody in. Okay, they did just bring in a player, Harold Castro. Now, he's looked good in winter ball, but it's a minor league deal. Obviously not a difference maker. Didn't make a big change in how I was approaching my one day as Royals general manager. But I looked at three things for this roster. I looked at adding a middle of the order bat. I looked at adding a top of the line starter. And I also looked at bullpen upgrades. Now, more specifically, I looked at the true closers. Guys who could take the ball. Oh, not true closers, what I meant to say. Not true closers. I believe they have their true closer. When they acquired, and I'm going to say this guy's name wrong again, Lucas Urseg from the A's last year, or from the A's last year. He stepped right in and pitched pretty dominantly, led the team in saves down the stretch. He was good. So I'm not looking for a bona fide closer. I was looking for a really dynamic setup guy. They're going to have Hunter Henry, football, Hunter Harvey back, but they could use a nice setup guy. Now, since I looked at, kind of breaking this down, both AJ Minter and Tanner Scott signed. Those were my two options. First it was Minter, then I was going to go to Scott, and then they both signed. So I just going to close the door. I only have one day, by the way. I only have one day, so I can't do it all. But I am doing two things. I'm going to be busy for this 24 hours. I'm not going to sleep. I'm not going to eat. I'm just going to worry about the Royals. And I'm going to sign two players. Because like I said, I believe I would have the leeway to make a couple of splashes here. Sign a couple of players. Make some, or spend some money that would help us win some ball games. And the first, I'm going to start with the middle of the order bat. And middle of the order bat could be 3, 4, 5, 6 even. Doesn't have to be, your top of the line, your number 3 hitter, your number 2 hitter. We have that guy. Bobby Witt Jr., and we got Vinny P. We got Sal Perez. There's some good bats here in the middle. We could use one more. And I would sign Jurickson Profar. I would have signed Anthony Santander for sure if I was Royals general manager for a day and he was still in the market, especially if those rumors of a short year, higher AAV was true. That would have been my guy. He goes north of the border. He heads to Toronto. Now, let's look at Jurickson Profar. This is the guy I'm signing. MLB trade rumors has his projected number at 3 years, $45 million. But now with Santander kind of getting probably an extra year than projected, maybe $10, $12 million more than projected, I imagine this market will slide a bit. And if I only have a day, I got to make it happen. I can't can't really pussyfoot around. I got to make it happen. So I'm signing Profar to a 3-year, $50 million deal. But this is where I get spicy. This is where the chef does a little Dyson. This is where I get crazy. Not really crazy. It's just how I would structure it because I think this is optimal for the Royals. I would front load the first year. So of this 50 million, maybe give them 22 in year one. Hit sparse the last two cheaper years, but also give him an opt-out after one. I would really want to make this a 1-year deal unless he, if he balls out, he's going to opt out. And then we can talk about it again, but we'll cross that bridge next year. I don't want to lock up a lot of long-term years in my 1 day as general manager. I believe that adding kind of in the short term helps them, but you don't want to clog up the long term. So I'm going to go 3 years, 50 million, front load that first year, give them an opt out after the first, give a little bit of that leverage back to the player, but sometimes you got to do that to make a deal happen. And Profar is coming off of a career season and would look awesome as my number 5 hitter. If I could put together a lineup that goes India, Witt, Vinny Paz, Sal, Jerkson, Profar, I am happy. Those are guys that can have above average WRC pluses. Last year, Jerkson, Profar having his best season as a pro. He's 32 years old, so he's still going to have juice left in the tank, but I'm also not going to sign him to a 5-year deal at that age, at 32 years old. And kind of using the frame of reference for his contract, a Mitch Haniger signed, I think it was 3 years, 42.5 or 43.5 just recently. And it's kind of a similar process, a similar kind of aged player, skilled player. Profar comes in with the switch hitter. He could play the outfield for me. Right now, their outfield at best, it's filled with hopes and dreams. Hunter Renfroe in right, MJ Melendez in left, and Kyle Isabel in center. I'll leave him in center because he's a plus defender. And if I'm going to go mediocre defenders on the corners, give me Isabel in there in the middle there to patrol center field. But Renfroe, negative WAR guy last year. He can be a bench bat if I need to. MJ Melendez, younger player, former I would say semi-hyped to fully hyped prospect as a catcher, but he's in the outfield. You kind of want to give him the reps, so I'll let him be my starter, but I'll put Profar out there. Right now you have India at DH projected on roster resource. Michael Massey is the starting second baseman, so there's flexibility whether I want to put India at second. I could DH Profar or DH Melendez or DH Renfroe. There's a lot of flexibility. There's enough there to allow for the signing to fit seamlessly. And I want that switch hitting bat. I want that player coming off a career year, and I want to add him to a team that I believe should compete in the AL Central, but I'm not done. I'm not just adding Profar. I also talked about adding a frontline starter. And I did bring up his name when I was talking about the K- walk rate. Jack Flaherty. Jack Flaherty's still out there, right? No one signed Jack. I'm going to sign Jack Flaherty. So Major League MLB trade rumors has Flaherty's projected contract at 5 years, $115 million. But like I mentioned, there was a report that circled about Santander, but it wasn't just about him. It was also about Jack Flaherty. Jack Flaherty might be open to a shorter-term deal, higher AAV, much like what Blake Snell got last year with the San Francisco Giants. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer Jack Flaherty 2 years, $55 million with an opt-out after year one. I'm basically modeling this exactly after what Blake Snell got from the Giants. Now, Blake Snell got $63 million, but Blake Snell was coming off of a Cy Young season. Flaherty's coming off a career season, a good season, a high K- walk rate season, but still not a Cy Young guy. So if I'm modeling it exactly like Snell got last year, I'm going 2 years, $55 million. Now, with the blessing of my ownership in my 1 day as GM, I would push that number up. Short years, I just feel like that is a win. And when you look at Flaherty, I mean, Flaherty's is coming off a year in which he would be a great day 2 starter for this ball club. You give the ball to Raggins day 1. He earned it last year, having his career breakout season. He's only 27 years old. He's kind of going into the prime of his career. I like him as my number 1. And then I'm going to go with Jack Flaherty as my number 2. Last year, as I mentioned, a high K- walk rate. Well, how high was it? 24%. So remember, I said the threshold for elite The elite pitchers are 20+%. He was at 24%. He had a good fib last year, career best ERA last year, or one of his career best ERAs last year, but he did post his career high Sierra Skills Interactive ERA. We'll get into Sierra on another deep dive in a different episode, but Flaherty was great last year. Flaherty showed he could be healthy last year. Now you kind of look at, the back of the baseball card for Jack Flaherty, and all of a sudden these are back-to-back seasons of 140 plus innings pitched. Those days of not even reaching 80 total innings seems to be in the rear view. He seems to be getting back to that 2018, 2019 workload where he's getting 150 innings. Last year, 162 innings was good for the Dodgers down the stretch, pitched for them in the playoffs. So now I'm going to go Cole Ragans, Jack Flaherty, Seth Lugo, who had a good season last year, got Cy Young votes last year, Michael Walker, and then afterwards, I have Lorenzen, Bubic, Marsh. Remember, they also traded for Kyle Wright an offseason ago. He's coming off shoulder surgery and kind of rebuilding to that. So it's a big, huge question mark, sure. But having him in that back part of the rotation, kind of being that flex play where I have Ragans, Flaherty, Lugo, Walker, 1, 2, 3, 4, ready to lock and load. Now I have a team that can compete with the Guardians in the AL Central, can compete with the Tigers, with the Twins. This is a team that can emerge as the AL Central a champion, a lineup that's at least 5 deep, in which pushes the rest of the lineup down. Same principle there with Jack Flaherty. So as GM for one day, I'm asking for the owner to bless me with cash, with dollar bills, y'all. And I'm going to go out there. I'm going to sign Jerkson Profar to put in the middle of my lineup and Jack Flaherty to be atop this rotation. I'm going to get out there and compete. So, Royals fans, leave a comment. Did I nail it? I feel like I nailed it. That's it. That's the episode. Thank you for tuning in to Diamond Discourse. You can follow me on X at Matty Kiwu. Make sure you're subscribed to the Beyond the Monster YouTube channel. Smash that like button. Leave a comment there at the bottom. If you want to hit me up on Twitter, you can hit me up there too. We're talking baseball. It's only about a month away from when pitchers and catchers report. Also, you can find the Beyond the Monster Substack on Substack. But that's going to be it. Keep the discourse alive, people, and I'll see you next time. Bye.